Presented by Bridgestone alongside Lindsay Rhodes. I'm Scott Hansen.
Hoping nobody hands us an L in our house today.
Right?
Weird weekend of football. Home team 3-11 so far. We'll see if Pittsburgh can buck that trend tonight. In the meantime, here's what you need to know right now. Starting with a season-long suspension for Vontaze Burfict without pay. That hit on Jack Doyle in the second quarter yesterday, the latest in what the league called an extensive history of rules violations. Told the Raiders linebacker in a letter that he had been warned that future violations would result in escalated accountability measures. Said he had continued to flagrantly abuse the rules, and as a result, he is out for the rest of 2019. Possibly out this week, Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears quarterback, doubtful to play against the Raiders in London. According to Ian Rappaport, he has a dislocated left shoulder, no plans for surgery. Bears have a bye next week. He could be back after that. Won't see Bradley Chubb for the rest of the season. The Broncos pass rusher out with a torn ACL that he continued to play with against the Jaguars. According to Vic Fangio, he was as surprised as anyone when he woke up this morning feeling the way he did. Another injury from yesterday, Tyron Smith, who left the stadium in a boot. According to Ian Rappaport, he got some good news today. It's not as bad as originally thought. An ankle sprain that will cost the Cowboys left tackle this week's game. According to Rappaport, possibly not any more time than that. That said, Cowboys could have used him on that final drive last night. Down 2 to the Saints and unable to put any points on the board. A major win for New Orleans at home without Breeze and without a single touchdown. Did it with 4 field goals from Will Lutz. Something tells me Willie McGinnis might have enjoyed this game more than, say, David Carr or LaDainian Tomlinson. Both defenses looked great. How did the Saints D pull it off?
They won in the trenches, and it's all about winning in the trenches. When you play in the Dallas Cowboys, you cannot let Zeke get going. And I thought they did a great job of controlling the front, not letting him get going. 8 carries for 35 yards. That's unheard of for Zeke. But they have a history of not giving up 100-yard rushers, and they did it today. And I think when you're able to do this and you can negate the running game and force Dak to do certain things, you got great coverage on the back end. I'm not going to dispel what they did on the back end. They had great coverage. But if you can't stop the run, it opens up so many more plays for the Dallas Cowboys. And kudos to that front 7 for the Saints.
Last time the Saints won without scoring a touchdown was 1998.
Been a while.
That said, they dominated time of possession. Is that going to be their formula moving forward, David?
I think it has to be. That's just based on what we saw from Teddy. And it wasn't bad football. It just wasn't Drew Brees. Drew Brees is a completely different animal. And you can see that with the mounting frustrations a little bit with Alvin Kamara and the subtleties. Like, you don't ever really see Alvin kind of put his hands out like, hey, man, you got to get us lined up right. And he was getting a little bit frustrated. And you saw a little bit on the sideline with Sean Payton as well. There was a play late in the game where Teddy made a call, ended up sliding the offensive line, and the tackle really didn't have a chance to make the call and get off the line of scrimmage. Ended up being a sack. You saw Drew Brees on the sideline when Teddy took the sack late in the game, had his hands on his head like, oh, you can't do that right there. So there's a little bit of frustration, but the defense is so good. Marshawn Lattimore played fantastic. Yeah. Really shut down Amari Cooper. Stepped it up big time. That front 7 played great. So you can win games like this. Like you mentioned in our meeting, I mean, they're stealing football games right now. If you're winning with your backup quarterback, you're stealing that division. It looks pretty good.
LT, you said last week that the Cowboys were the best team in the NFC. Would you like to amend that comment based on these results?
I would not. I still think they very are. They still are the best team in the NFC. And look, they just ran into a team that was highly motivated. The Saints are a very good team, and they're going to be there in the end. They're going to make a deep playoff run. We know that. But I believe that the Cowboys right now, speaking defensively, to me, they're one of the best defenses in the National Football League, let alone the NFC. I just think right now they're able to keep the scoring down. They're averaging giving up about 14 points a game, which is good for 3rd in the league.
It gives you a chance.
It gives you a chance. Yeah. But the addition of Robert Quinn was critical to me in the offseason because they needed somebody opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence. When you have those 2 defensive ends, those 2 linebackers in the middle, what they're doing on defense will be sustainable all year. Now, the offense, guys, we know that's going to go up and down, but for the most part, that defense will be able to hold people, around 14 points. That'll be good.
You can win a lot of games holding people to 14
now.
points.
Maybe we'll see this matchup again at the end of the year in, say, the postseason. You mentioned the Saints stealing games. Week 10 is the target for Breeze. They're 3-1 right now. The 4 games before Week 10, when he's supposed to get back, they've got Tampa Bay, they have Jacksonville, they have Chicago, and they have Arizona. And then they have a bye.
You win a couple of those.
They could be right there.
They could be right there.
Scott?
I saw a headline in a Minnesota newspaper asking the question, can the Vikings offense be effective when it has to rely on Kirk Cousins? Yesterday, Cousins and the Vikings shut down by the Bears. They only scored 6 total points, and Cousins did not account for a touchdown. Let's talk to Hall of Famer Kurt Warner about this. Kurt is live in Pittsburgh, site of Monday Night Football tonight. Quarterbacks flock together indeed. Kurt getting a little pregame chat there with Andy Dalton, who's having a nice season throwing the ball in terms of yardage. Well over 300 yards per game is Andy Dalton. Now the Hall of Famer joins us. Kurt, let me ask you the question that newspaper in Minnesota asked. Can the Vikings be effective when they have to rely on Cousins?
Well, I tell you what, Scott, 2 parts to this question. First of all, I don't think you want Kirk Cousins throwing 35 or 40 times a game. That's not where he's been his best throughout his career. The second part to that, though, is when he came over from Washington, I really felt he was a guy that was a difference maker with his right arm, could make some really special throws, different than a lot of guys in the league. I don't see that same guy right now. I see a guy that's playing a little bit tentative, that seems to be playing and worrying about the big number that they paid him on his contract, as opposed to just going back and ripping the football like he did before he hit free agency. So if they're going to depend more on Kirk Cousins, he's got to get back to being more of the guy he was in Washington. No care in the world, see it, rip it, let it go, and use that right arm to make some of those special throws.
Of course, Vikings fans are also factoring in the price tag that Cousins came to the team with and the expectations they have just with that 3-year deal. Meanwhile, Kurt, the Carolina Panthers, last 12 games for Carolina, they have 3 wins. All were Kyle Allen starts, including yesterday a win on the road. Is Carolina a better football team with Kyle Allen quarterbacking them?
Man, that one's tough, Scott. If Cam Newton is healthy, and the special Cam Newton, I'm not so sure. But within Norv Turner's pass offense, I don't think there's any question. Cam's forte was not drop back, pick a team apart. It was big plays with his arm, big plays with his legs. What Kyle Allen's doing is he's running the offense how it's supposed to be run. Christian McCaffrey playing good football. So in the pass game part of it, I don't think there's any question. They're probably a better team in this Norv Turner offense with Kyle Allen as the quarterback instead of Cam Newton.
I'll tell you this, Kyle Allen, not a bad athlete either. He escaped a sack from J.J. Watt yesterday that was straight out of the Tony Romo magic bag, or even Randall Cunningham going back into the day. Nice road victory there for the Carolina Panthers. All right, Kurt, thank you very much. Enjoy the game. We'll check back in with you later. Back to the top story of the day now. Vontaze Burfict suspended for the rest of the season. Burfict ejected from yesterday's win over the Colts after this illegal hit on Jack Doyle. It is the latest in a series of illegal hits and personal fouls over the course of Burfict's career. Let's bring in NFL media insider Ian Rappaport for more on this one. Ian, this is one of the biggest suspensions in NFL history for something that happened on a game field. What more can you tell us?
Vontaze Burfict was in London earlier today with his team. They flew there right after the game. I'm told he actually headed home today to deal with his appeal. That is expected to be tomorrow, and his agent, Lamont Smith, told me that Burfict, of course, will participate in that. The plan is to have a ruling before Wednesday of this game week. That is the way the league generally does things. What was interesting here was it is clear that Vontaze Burfict's past incidents played a factor in this. In fact, his extensive history was something that John Runyon alluded to in the letter to Burfict. Runyon also said there were no mitigating circumstances to this hit. In other words, there's nothing that led to it. It was simply Burfict leading with his head on a defenseless player. Runyon called it flagrant, said that, of course, Burfict has been warned that there would be escalating accountability measures if he continued this type of play. Burfict did continue it, and now he is out for the season pending appeal.
Thank you, Ian. Let's get some more headlines right now. Giants on a 2-game winning streak. The rookie quarterback looks good, and now they get a wide receiver with over 600 career catches. Golden Tate back with the G-Men today. Tate served a 4-game suspension for PEDs. He signed a $37 million contract to come over via free agency to the Giants this past offseason. Speaking of New York, the Jets say Sam Darnold's return from mono is still up in the air. Darnold has been cleared to resume throwing, but has not been cleared for contact. The second-year quarterback has missed 2 games due to mono. Jets are 0-3. They were on the bye this weekend. Some notable injuries after the Week 4 games. Josh Allen is in concussion protocol. Same thing with Jarvis Landry and T.J. Hawkinson.